Okay, here we are with Jacques Besner, a Montreal-based urban planner and general manager of ACUUS, the Associated Research Centers for the Urban Underground Space. And I am talking with Jacques for the first time in over a couple of decades now. I did my first master's at Kungliga Tekniska Högskolan, the Royal Institute of Technology in Stockholm, on psychological issues related to underground space, which led me to ACUS, which then led me to the conference in Torino in what year was that? 2002, Urban Underground Space, a resource for cities. It was an excellent conference. I only regret that I have not gone to more ACUS conferences. And I'm currently working on connecting up my current PhD research on walkability. And for anybody that knows my work at Pedestrian Space, knows that walkability sort of occupies so much of my life. Now back to this other passion and interest, which is the urban underground, which you are I think it's safe to say, leading global expert on. So it's really wonderful to have this chance to meet with you. We decided to record this because I think it will be interesting. We'll put it on the Pedestrian Space channel. So thank you. And maybe we could just start hearing just a little bit about the background of ACUS, the year of establishment and so forth.
Thank you, Anika. It's a great pleasure to participate to your to your session. Firstly, I would say that I'm an architect and an urban planner, retired from the city of Montreal since a couple of 2010. But before, during that 30 years at the city, I was mostly in charge of developing the underground city called Réseau now, the underground city. It's a network connected to the underground subway we have in Montreal. It's one of the largest in the world and maybe one of the best one in the world. I don't want to, that's very interesting others, but, and during my career, I had the chance to participate to some conference in Asia, China, and one of the interesting one was in Paris in 1985, organized by the French University and the Sorbonne, Sabine Ball and other colleagues. So I went there and they had it was one of the first, not the first, one of the conference before the incorporation in Canada in 1987. So it started in 1983, but the one in Paris was just before the Montreal one. And the authorization from the city and from the to try to incorporate the ACUUS in Canada. So we succeed. And the ACUUS is the Associated Research Center for the Urban Underground Space. So it was hosted at that time by the city of Montreal. It moved to the University of Montreal, and now we are quite independent now, but I'm still the general manager for 2 years, because the next conference will be in Belgrade in next year. So I'll take my retirement. So after
you can't retire
career.
yet. Okay.
I'm sorry.
I said you can't retire yet.
Yeah, my president told me that. Anyway, so it's a marvelous topic. Talking about the pedestrian in the underground space, and very few experts are really talking about the people inside the underground space, inside the subways. Of course, a subway can be successful without people, but often the subway constructor, operator are thinking that the people inside are only walkers. It's more than that. It's more than that, because people maybe could have connection to surrounding buildings, creating then an underground city. But people should be comfortable, safe inside, with pleasant experience, be sitting, like the sea goes on, etc. So I think it's very, very important to exchange those ideas with the other experts of the underground, like the engineers, the tunnelers, the planners, the psychologists, the legal advisor, etc. So it is the purpose of ACUUS to try to be a forum of all the experts involved in the underground space. So maybe I'm one, or we have a couple of experts like me who are trying to follow that direction, to exchange those ideas with the other experts.
Yeah, that's fantastic, and I believe that's what drew me to ACUUS, and today still draws me to ACUUS. I'm very interested in being more involved. I think we could talk at length about all the elements that can go into making underground space pleasant and comfortable for everybody moving through it, of which you are again a leading expert on with your multiple papers on underground pedestrianism, which I will be referencing at length. We could be talking about all those elements, of course, seating, access issues, elevators, safe, accessible public toilets. But there's one referring to the pleasantness that I would like to reference that you and I know, I think, and if people start to think about it, subway systems that really stand out in your memory, they are often art and culture rich. So thinking, I haven't seen the Montreal system yet, but definitely seems like a kind of global pioneer with incorporating art, the Stockholm Metro. And then this makes me think of heritage and city image. So I'm curious about your thoughts too on how that underground space, especially when culture and arts are brought in, can also contribute to sort of place identity and heritage of the city.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. One of the subway system I visited in the past was impressed me a lot is the St. Petersburg. And of course, a little bit less Moscow, but the St. Petersburg subway is a gallery, art gallery. It's fantastic, fantastic. So, of course, at the time it was designed for another purpose, but it opened the trend for other cities to try to go to integrate artworks into those subway stations. We have done that in the past during the construction of our subway in 1966 and try to integrate artworks on the walls, but it's more than that. It's began, by example, by simply allow musicians in the subway station to listen to pleasant music. It could be to had some cultural activities inside. For example, we have each year in the subway ACUUS Souterrain. So it's an exhibition in the underground network of modern art. And we had also in the past, it's not finished now, a semi-marathon inside the underground city and the subway. So you see, you have to bring in the underground what you can find at the surface. The underground is not a silo. It's not you have to break the silos and try to bring activities inside and down there.
Out of curiosity, what month is ACUUS Souterrain? Is it always the same month?
ACUUS Souterrain it was in February.
February. Okay, that's so
Too late.
fabulous. Oh, too late. Fabulous. Well,
Next year. Next year.
Yeah, next year. That sounds really great. And I like how you say it's not a silo. It doesn't have to be a sterile space. You know,
Yeah.
it can be very creative, even more so creative. But about silos, this is the perfect segue. Your paper, Underground Space Needs an Interdisciplinary Approach, speaks to my
Yep.
heart. It really does. I have to just read, if you don't mind, very briefly at the end. You mentioned visionary reformers and architects of the last century tried to break the prevailing sterile professional silos, and today some international organizations like ACUUS continue this mission to change the mentality and promote knowledge sharing among the various actors involved in urban underground space. I just love this paper because for me, one of my mantras in my work is to go beyond silos. You know, I have a very interdisciplinary background and I can only think in this interdisciplinary way. So seeing this in your paper is really interesting, and also the discussion in the paper of what an underground space urbanism is. So for anybody listening
Yeah,
that's never heard of it, how do you
yeah,
respond
yeah.
for somebody who says,
We
"What's that?"
we came from far. A long time ago, the underground space was the playground of civil engineers. And came later the transporter, the architects. By the way, I just have to mention that the architect should be involved in the design of subway station. Why in the past all the subway stations should look the same? Each station, like we have done in Montreal, each station have been done by a different architect. So they are all different, all different. So it creates a variety of ambience, and it is important. And it's only by dealing with multidisciplinarity that we could do that. So we had at that time at the city of Montreal, we had a committee, in charge of with the lawyers, the engineers, all the experts dealing with those issues, not only for the subway, but also for the underground space of private buildings. So I think people should be more open-minded to talk and to understand what the other experts are dealing with. And not only, as I mentioned, for public spaces, but also for private spaces located in the underground.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So you offer a real pioneering example there in Montreal of how to do that. Okay, and then in another paper, planning, design, and humanization of underground pedestrian networks. On page 8, you mentioned that there's a multiplicity of pedestrian types. And this is so fun for me because I do my urban mobility workshops, and I have this game that I play with people, I Spy Mobility, and helping people recognize the person with the stroller is a different type of pedestrian than the person with the walk, or the person without anything, just walking. And you do note on page 8, there's a multiplicity of pedestrian types: the parents with the child, commuters going to their work or university, shoppers of all ages, old
Yeah,
people,
yeah.
ones with, this is walkability 101, that we're still educating on today, that we're still learning about basic urbanism for different types of people. So some thoughts on that this the roots of underground walkability, but also just basic walkability, is in your papers.
Yeah. Um, it's part of our experience to try to understand, to be, I would say that the architects, not only the architect, but the planners also, but the architect should be, when they are designing those underground spaces, they have to put themselves in the skin of a pedestrian. Not only a pedestrian, but an elderly people, a child. So he had to be open-minded to understand better the mobility, the pleasure of each kind of pedestrian should have in the underground space. Should be the same at the surface, of course, but at the underground, in the underground space, it's a little bit different and less usual.
And okay, there's something else I want to reference. I'm not sure what paper it was in yet, but in your papers you mentioned some, I think prior, I'm not sure the projects came to realization, but in Japan, these Alice cities and the Geo Frontier, some real
Yeah, 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 yeah.
innovative thinking. So those types of Alice cities, I can't wait to look that up, and I'm sure I could see some visuals.
The underground pyramid in Mexico.
Okay, is it real, Lice?
It's like Alice City, the pyramid in Mexico are a kind of exercise, minding is exercise to try to go beyond what is normally done in the underground. But they are impossible to build. Of course, they are too deep, especially the Mexico pyramid in the center, in the Zocalo, in the center of the capital. Imagine you destroy a lot of archaeology feature. So it's just an exercise of try to look at different size and but I'm a little bit concerned about going that direction. It's not a show. It's not. But the underground space is now a little bit more trendy. People want to go inside, but they have to work in multidisciplinarity with the other experts of the underground. So we have to be careful, especially by promoting those. Wow,
yeah,
it's not a wow.
right. Well, that was my question because I thought people in general just wholesale reject anything that includes sleeping, underground. So I just wondered about the evolution of those concepts. I think as an
Yeah,
imagination, as a science fiction exercise,
yeah,
but at the same time, I mean, as before we started recording, I think you said something very important. Of course, the underground is not a solution everywhere. We have to think about the geography, like some place like
yeah,
Finland is completely different
yeah,
going underground than Mexico. So
yeah,
if I were to imagine such projects, maybe not, an entire city underground, but something I would think of a place like Finland or somewhere in the Nordics where it would seem they're already going quite deep.
yeah,
Um,
or not.
or not.
In Finland, in Helsinki, by example, they are lucky to have rock bed near the surface. So they are creating marvelous places, a church, caverns, and also it's fantastic. But some are less lucky, maybe like the people, not the people, the cities near the sea. So they have to be very, very careful. It's not like in Moscow, the subway is very, very deep in the ground. So in New York, it's not the case, partly on over the surface and on the ground. So we have to be very careful because the climate change will have an impact on those kind of underground systems. Um, and the ventilation, I should talk a little bit about the ventilation of the subways. In the past, the ventilation was made only by the arrival and departure of the train into a subway station, creating a change of air. But when the pollution is up there, you let the pollution going inside. So architects and engineers should think in the future about that, how to keep a safe safe clean air inside those underground spaces. So maybe we will need ventilation, but ventilation with climatization, I'm sorry, you need some energy. So it's not an easy thing to go there. You have to think very seriously in the future. So this is the purpose of ACUUS, to try to bring new idea, to talk and exchange with other experts.
I'm curious, very briefly, with the geography reference, do you see any particular regions that could be interesting that are proving interesting for innovative underground urbanism? I guess Montreal has been one in the
Yeah,
historically. Yeah.
yeah. Montreal is one of the few cities in the world to have a totally underground subway system and connected to that subway and underground pedestrian system. Most of the subways they are mixed with elevated tracks, the underground parts. So it's not, it's depending of many other factors like the geology, like the density of the population in the city. So it's not you cannot find it in a book. Okay, we should do that way, because no, it's a case by case approach.
And I imagine even for people within urbanism, this is often a new topic, the underground. And so
Mm-hmm.
I do want to reference in your paper, Planning, Design, and Humanization of Underground Pedestrian
Mm-hmm.
Networks, you reference a survey, um,
Yep.
page 9, that I just want to mention it quickly, that Montreal in the late 90s did a survey with pedestrians and revealed that 32% have a very positive attitude. They find it exciting, funny, beautiful, pleasant, and effective. 44% have a positive one, calling it animated, colored, vast, and alive. And only 12% have a negative, that it's dark, enclosed, dangerous, and 12% are indifferent. Those are
Mm-hmm.
really interesting, exciting numbers if you're interested in
Yeah.
underground urbanism. Yeah.
Yeah, I would be interested, but I'm not working. I'm retired now. But to to go again in that direction, to make surveys inside and outside on the street, to look at the difference since that time. Of course, if you have a pleasant underground city, a pleasant underground station, metro station, of course, it's interesting to stay inside longer than only walking from a place to place. But there's two things. Since the COVID, it changed drastically the picture. In Montreal, we have a little bit less people uh, coming in the underground space, because people are working remotely at home more and more. But gradually, I hope that people will be back in their office in downtown areas. But it will never be the same. The new generation like to work at home. They it will be different. So I think all the cities should monitor, maybe at each 5 years, the usage of the underground space versus the users of walkways outside. Uh, we have to follow the trend and adapt our planning practice to the new realities. And we never know with the climate change what will be the next problem. Each 5 or 10 years, I think it will be important to monitor, to adapt our practice to new realities.
Is there an impact on space within the Montreal indoor city? For example, business space was impacted,
Yeah,
rentals. Yeah,
yeah, a little bit
a little
during
bit.
the 3 years of the COVID. Of course, people were had to, maybe 2 years had to work at home. And so now the trend is that people should go to the office at least 3 days a week and 2 days at home. So people like that. So people are coming in downtown now more, but only to work, but also to shop and to go to the museum, to the show. So we have a lot of outdoor cultural activity. So downtown area should be more than only a place to work. It should be a place to have fun also. And maybe Montreal is one of the interesting city for that.
Yeah, it sounds like it. I really love how it really seems to offer probably one of the best examples of using the underground for, yeah, culture and leisure.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that's really
And go,
great.
go and we have a network linking also universities, campus, hospitals, not only museum and shopping centers.
Mm.
So it's a net under the city connecting all the building up there.
Right. And some of those institutions also have some of their space underground, correct? I mean, I imagine the university maybe has some library space underground and so forth.
Yeah, yeah,
Yep.
yeah, of course. Yeah.
Well, on one note to end here, I think we can end on this note, relating to climate, which, as I understand, is also one reason Montreal is such a pioneer, it's due to the climate that such a vast network was
Yeah,
established, right? Um, but now the changing climate, as you said, we have to be with climate change, we have to adapt, we have to be nimble, adaptive. So what do you think? What are some of your thoughts on the use of underground space in these, changing times and with ideas of resilience? As you said earlier, heat is not a new issue. Um, Globally, there's societies that have been
yeah,
dealing with great heat for a long time, but there are, as I understand, Europe is one of the quickest heating regions. I don't know how warm it gets for Montreal in the summer, if urban heat is a rising issue there. So thoughts about underground urbanism and changing climates and disruption and
yeah, yeah.
resilience.
Of course, climate change have multiple facets. In the past, it was our cold period in the winter time. In summertime, it was very hot and humid. But now it's a mix of that. We have a rain in the winter time, ice rain, and in summertime we have very cold, not cold, hot temperature, but it's a kind of yo-yo now. So uh, I think the underground space and the subway and the underground spaces have a new value to give access to city centers, for example, to avoid those kind of annoyance. It's different than the past, and maybe in the future should be again different, completely different than today. So I don't know. We have to plan for the future, but thinking of that also, that underground space is a safe space.
Yeah, I really like the focus on safety. And through your writing, it's clear that you're thinking it's safety
Mm-hmm.
in different dimensions. I see you also referencing, uh, mm, women's safety numerous times throughout your work.
Mm-hmm.
Also, elderly people moving with small children. So this is again walkability 101, to think about the needs of different types of pedestrians.
Yeah, yeah. So you have to consider benches, fontaine, plants inside to give them the not the impression that interesting to give them interesting place like outside. A new phenomenon came is the people without house. So the it's a housing problem many cities in the world. So people have to go somewhere, and often they go in the subway station, subway corridors to have a safe place, not outside. So it's a new facet of our planning that we have to take care of. The politicians, the mayors are very they know that, and they have to find solution, but not also not only the mayors, but also the governments at the top. They have to find a solution to the housing crisis we have in many cities in the world. So the underground space is now a solution, but for today. In the future, they will have to find a new solution to give housing to those new arrival, new beggars, and etc. People without house.
Yeah, that's an issue. I don't know of any place that doesn't seem to be affected by that issue. So,
Mm-hmm.
okay. So to close out here, if people want to read more about ACUUS, they could go to
The
AC,
website.
yep,
That,
acuus.org.
that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. And they are very welcome to participate to our conferences. The next one is next year in Belgrade, Serbia. So it will be quite interesting one. This beautiful city, Belgrade. So they are welcome also to become a member of ACUUS. We have, of course, professional institutions, individuals, and students as part of our membership.
What what is the theme of the Belgrade conference? Is it set? It's not set yet.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So
Huh. I didn't plan for any
background.
gotcha
Background.
questions.
Underground mobility via elevated thinking. New
Hmm.
opportunities and challenge in the use of urban underground space.
Wow. Underground mobility.
Via elevated thinking.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Sort of connects to everything we're talking about. And so I love at the website Passion for Underground Space, learn about our commitment and promotion of underground space. I want to say thank you. I have so much passion for underground space myself, so I'm so glad to connect with you and looking forward to more.
Perfect. Okay, thank you, Anika.